Welcome to Papillion Unscripted. I am Michael Severe, the place to go to meet people who truly help make Papillion feel like home. Very special guest this week. He is a native of Nebraska with the longest business card in America. He is Matt Geiler. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Thank you for having me.
This is what I have. I have actor, comedian, painter, poet, singer, songwriter, designer, illustrator, improviser, animator, playwright, and web artist.
Yeah, I mean, artist, kind of all-encompassing, but yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Generally, you're funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I've made my living for a while, is comedy, improvisation, performing. Yeah.
I want to go back to the beginning. So was it when you were 4, 5, 6 years old? Were you entertaining your parents? Were you entertaining kids in school? Was that always the way you were?
Yeah, I was always like cutting up at home and dressing up as characters. Mostly doing like kind of like characters and voices and stuff to try and make my parents laugh and my siblings. So
yeah, how'd that go with the teachers in school?
It's so in school, typically you have like the class clown dynamic is not always, but usually it's somebody who maybe isn't the best student, and so that can cause trouble.
Right.
I, however, had stellar grades, so I think I was able to do that without repercussions a lot more. So it's kind of like, I don't know, we're going to send the kid that's doing voices to the office because he's also like getting good grades. So maybe that had something to do with it. I didn't get in a lot of trouble, but class clown, definitely, yeah.
I think sometimes, especially if you're above average intelligence-wise, you get a little bored.
Yeah.
Right? You know the material, so you want to have some fun with yourself.
True. And just, you can't, I could never resist. I just could not resist, because if you put me, and maybe it's like an anarchic thing, like if you put me in an environment where it's like rows, and very regimented, that's something I almost automatically feel compelled to like disrupt it, just for the sake of like, there's no good reason why this should be like this.
Right. So you were seconds away from joining the military, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they're never in rows.
Right. Yeah. That's a natural for a guy like me.
That would make a lot of sense.
To enlist. Yeah. And I think that would have worked out great.
So you were born in Iowa, but raised in the Ashland area?
Yeah, Ashland area. We grew up on a farm down there. My parents bought this farm, and they're like, we're going to raise our kids in this idyllic country environment. But there was no farming. My dad's an architect and my mom's a journalist, so it was more like, let's get somebody else to farm the actual farm, and then it was just kind of growing up on an acreage,
Yeah, so where'd you end up going to college?
I went to Nebraska Wesleyan in Lincoln. I was a history major there.
History major is the one you pick when you're like, I don't know, history?
Yeah.
That's good.
You like to read, but you don't have like a particular motivation to do anything with it. So yeah, like no teaching certificate, nothing like that. It was just a history degree with emphasis in Renaissance Europe.
Really?
Completely useless.
That could really come in handy.
Yeah, the only use of it is like if anybody at a show ever yells out like, do a song about Pope Sixtus III, or something, then then the stars align. But yeah, completely useless. My dad was like, you're going to teach or something, right, with that? And I was like, incorrect.
Probably not.
I'm going to go to New York and study acting. And
what was your first paid gig?
First paid gig was age 17. So when I was in high school, for some reason, the reason was because my dad is from this area, and so I always on the weekends hung out with a lot of kids from up here. And it was a bunch of speech and theater kids. We formed this group called Teen Improv, and my first paid gig was at a place that doesn't exist anymore called Noodles Comedy Club. It was down the Old Market. And we did a Monday night summer improv night there. And my first gig, we promoted ourselves. We got $60.
Wow.
To this was like summer of '92, to just do comedy for mostly our peers. But that was the first paid gig.
So what did you do in college? Was it the same thing? Did you find a group of guys in college or folks in college to get together and put together a group?
By that time, it had kind of evolved. So I had started doing clubs and stuff at that point, and started getting into like doing corporates and stuff like that. So there's a little more travel, a little more money, and so I would do that kind of stuff on the weekends. And yeah, it kind of grew from there. After college, I was when I started really like touring around and doing clubs with a group called the Weisenheimers, and that was our that was our big that was kind of the biggest thing that had happened, because then we started getting booked at colleges, clubs and stuff. So it started to become kind of a legitimate thing where we didn't really have to. We still had to do a little bit, but like the amount of explaining we had to do to other people when they're like, now what do you do again? Do you have like a regular job? That's when it really started to be like a solid thing.
Did you ever think about, Second City or the Growler, the Groundlings, or that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Did you ever think about doing that kind of stuff?
Well, I went through the conservatory at Second City in Chicago. So did that for 2 years, and that training was great, because that's a place where improv people go to learn how to use improvisation productively. So
I'm assuming steel sharpens steel in that. You got people who are like you at your meeting.
Yes.
Makes you better.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing about it, is everybody is from their small pond, and they come there because they want to get really good at it. So you're sharpening each other, and and the environment is very ego-less, because the end goal is we want to use improvisation to produce sketches and to produce shows and to produce reviews and screenplays and sitcom scripts. So it's very much like ego out the door, and let's use the process to really like hone down to what works. And so it's a really great it's a great training, because it kind of ceases to be about like, oh, am I good, or am I okay, or does the audience like me? It's really just about using the skills to make stuff. When
did you start at KXVO?
KXVO was like September of 2006.
Okay, and what did they say they wanted you to do when they first offered you the job? They say, "Here's your job description." What was that?
Oh my gosh! So I had just finished Second City when that opportunity came, and I went in there, and I really wasn't. I was like, I'm not the guy for this job. I don't have a journalism background, and certainly not a broadcast journalism background. I'm an improv guy. And literally, the news director at the time was like, can you read a teleprompter? I was like, yeah, I can do that. I've done that a lot of times for commercial stuff. He's like, great. So I did a teleprompter test, and he's like, okay, man, when can you start? And I'm like, are you sure this is who you want? Because I'm not a news guy. It's like, oh, you only have to do like a minute and a half of news up front, and then it's whatever you want. And I'm like, I don't know that that's a smart plan of attack, is to do like whatever I want.
Right.
Because whatever I want is not going to be, it's going to be like madness, know?
Right.
But I think at the time they wanted to do something like, this is not a good comparison, but like, you remember Talk Soup?
Sure.
That kind of a pop newsy type of thing.
Kind of bounce around from the stories of the week.
Right.
Kind of thing.
It didn't end up being that, but I think that's kind of what they were going for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it was explained to me.
At what point did you decide, I'm going to put on a pumpkin face and black tights and do some dancing?
At the point where so that show was chaos in the sense that I think we had a budget of like $96 like a month. I mean, there was nothing. There was no budget to it at all, and we were constantly having to borrow like photogs from KPTM because we didn't have a dedicated camera person. It was very ad hoc, and we would always get to 9 o'clock at night is when you had to have everything stacked and ready for the 10 o'clock broadcast. So everything had to be ready by then, and we would routinely get to 9 o'clock, and there'd be holes in the show. There would be just these massive holes.
There'd be blocks that were empty?
Yes, there would be blocks that were just had nothing, you
Right.
know. So we would always get to these, we'd be in these pinches where it's like, oh my God, you know, like what are we gonna do right now to chew up time after weather? And the Dancing Pumpkin Man was one of those desperate attempts to do that, and it happened during Halloween week. So it was literally just like, we've got nothing. My warped solution to this problem was to say to Taylor Stein, I'm going to grab that unitard that's back in that weird box of things back in the green room. I ran up to the lobby. I took a foam pumpkin out of the display in the lobby. I carved it up in the cafeteria. I jammed a hanger into the back of it, and I just like put it on my head as a mask. I'm like, throw Ghostbusters on. I'll just dance like a madman. As long as I need to. That was the plan.
That was it.
Yeah.
So that was in 2006, I believe.
Yeah.
Obviously, YouTube really hadn't gotten going. Eventually, it got posted on YouTube.
Yes.
I checked. It's got like 15 million views.
Yeah.
15 million people.
It's a thing.
Have chose to hit the button.
It's a
and
thing.
watch it.
Yeah. Inexplicably to me, because I look at that thing and I'm like, how? I don't understand. I don't get it.
Right.
I don't know. It's some of my,
They still show it, by the way.
Yeah.
They'll do it in like these little 15-minute vignettes in between a show when they have a little black there. They have no room after the commercial to the next show, and they put you in there. Just dancing.
It's ridiculous. It's
cool.
preposterous.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of took off because the YouTube was in its infancy when we posted it, so there was like no strategy behind posting it other than that here's some content from the previous night's broadcast. And it sat there for I think 3 years or so.
Right.
And a guy from BuzzFeed did a blog I think in 2009, and it was like, you know, this is the greatest Halloween video in the history of the internet, and that's how it got initial traction.
Wow.
Since then, it's just been this very like slow, incremental thing until it kind of got to this point where like now, you know, people my son's age, you know, Gen Z, Gen Y and Z, and some millennials, they know it as this meme,
Right.
and they share it like these GIFs, like when it becomes autumn, you know, they're sending it back and forth. So that's how they know it devoid of its original context.
Right.
Which is hilarious because I literally attach, if you're like looking at my life's work, I'm like, that's probably the least meaningful thing to me that I've ever done. But I'll get around like kids of that age and they're like, you're the Dancing Pumpkin Man?
You're great.
It's like a thing. You
Right,
know?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
can I get a picture? Can I get an autograph? I'm like, you want a picture with the Dancing Pumpkin Man sans Dancing Pumpkin Man?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
But I don't know. You know, that's their connection to it.
How did America's Got Talent? How did that all come about? Is that something where you have to go locally and try out, and then you get picked, or how does that work?
They used to do a tour kind of like American Idol where they'd stop in the cities. Now it's kind of they reach out to you. They don't do the locales anymore. But how it happened with me was they reached out to me a few times. The first time they reached out to me was around 2010-ish, and a producer was like, can the Dancing Pumpkin Man come on? I was very averse to doing the Dancing Pumpkin Man, so on the phone I was just like, yeah, I have to check with him. You know, he's not.
You were his representative.
He's not a very agreeable dude.
Right.
And he's like, okay, well, here's my number.
Right.
Let me know what he says. He was not pleased.
Nobody probably ever turns them down.
Right.
Right.
And I did that a couple of times, and then finally, I think it was the 12th season. It was 2017, and this was like the third time that they had contacted me, and I just said, you know, I'll do it, but on the condition that I get to like speak and kind of improvise with the judges, and so that there's some personality to it. And then also, and I thought this would kill it, I was like, also, I'm SAG-AFTRA, so if you can pay my day rate, I'll show up. And they're like, yeah, cool.
They got more money than God. They're fine.
And they make all these different deals in different ways with acts, depending on what. So they were fine. I just showed up for a day and.
Yeah, but when you do something like that, do you realize what it could mean? Because I mean, you never know. People blow up from shows like that with the most random acts.
Oh yeah. Well, what happened to me was I just started getting like these weird inquiries for like commercial work. So like the first one was Dunkin' Donuts called up, and they're a sponsor of the show, and at the time, and they're like, can the Dancing Pumpkin Man come through and like, you know,
pumpkin spice latte,
do his thing with the fall with the pumpkin spice latte where the fall flavors come out, and also like when our Halloween donuts get rolled out, you know. So there's always some thing like that. So we've done like, there's that. The Dancing Pumpkin Man is a like a skin you can download in Fortnite.
Really?
Yeah. You can put
That's incredible.
You can get the Dancing Pumpkin Man avatar with a flaming mask on your head in Fortnite. You know, we just did a thing for Drizzly where the Dancing Pumpkin Man, you know, promotes having seasonal beers delivered to your door.
Makes plenty of sense.
It makes perfect sense.
Everything makes sense at this point. So, then you went to LA?
Yes, we lived in LA for about a decade. Yeah.
Okay, and did you love it?
I loved the work and I loved the hustle. I did as a farm kid. I didn't much care for the congestion, and, but it was great for work because you know, while I was out there, I did a lot of kind of connecting to the improv community. I ended up doing a few TV projects, foreign with Wayne Brady, and doing some touring with Wayne.
He's so funny.
Great. I mean, he's like the top of the musical improv mountain.
Yes.
So for me, that was.
Plus, Let's Make a Deal. I mean, come on.
Let's Make
that's
a Deal.
huge for me as a kid with Monty Hall. Then he comes along. It's huge.
And now he's doing Dancing with the Stars. So I mean, that was very fortunate. We're friends. The touring thing kind of went away when COVID hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. Did a lot of commercial work, a lot of voiceover stuff. Got into doing a lot of freelance animation and storyboards and stuff like that.
Basically, about 11 or 12 people saw you perform over here at First Street Plaza for a
11.
third Friday.
That's a generous crowd.
Somewhere in there. But the idea behind it is that people didn't see the story that we have on Papillion Vision. So if someone throws a topic out, and then a genre of music, and then you perform the song.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a point where someone did that and you had nothing?
The only thing I can think of is I was doing a show in, I want to say Alexandria, Minnesota.
Okay.
And it was a public gig at like a VFW kind of a town hall situation, and a woman yelled out, "Do a song about lutefisk." And I, at that point,
fish, right?
Yeah. And at that point in my life, I'd never heard it. I didn't know what it was, and that's really the only one that stands out because I'm a well-read guy.
Sure,
I try to
You're
keep
a history major.
I try to keep the Rolodex full.
Right.
But that particular time, I was like, "What did you just say to me? That sounds like a threat." You know.
Yeah.
She's like, "No, it's lutefisk. It's yummy." And I'm like, "Somebody's gonna have to explain."
Right, yeah.
And everybody was happy to explain
Sure.
what lutefisk was, and so yeah, that was the only time I can think of. Yeah.
So what now? What are you doing now? Where can people find you?
You can find me online, obviously. What I'm doing now mostly is I have a 2D character animation studio that I run out of my house, and so I do a ton of work like that. You can find that at sickpicnicmedia.com, sickpicnicmedia.com. And then other than that, I do kind of touring gigs as they come up.
And First Street Plaza gigs. Yeah.
Anytime First Street Plaza in Papillion calls and says, "We want you to come down here and do a gig for the potentially 0 to 3 people who are guaranteed to be there," I'm there. I actually dig those kind of gigs because it's like, you know, then the pretense of like falls away and you're just having fun with whoever is there.
Yeah.
So I'm actually
And I'm assuming it takes you back to how you came up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you probably small audiences or group of people at a school or something like that that you would do. And you were great, obviously, and everyone who came along got to be a part of a song too.
Yes.
So that's good.
Yeah.
It can be a part of every single song that gets performed.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about doing the improvisation is, whereas like if you have a set of stand-up material that's kind of unalterable, you know, and it's a little harder maybe to be flexible because you have this set, but what if you're doing it to nobody, you know? It doesn't lend itself very easily, unless you're a good improviser, to being very conversational or interactive. I always feel like I'm cool with kind of whatever circumstances.
You play it as it lies.
You play it as it lies. Yeah. That's true professionalism. Okay, and I also wear a sweater here today.
You did.
So
yes.
I hope that it's people appreciate the professionalism.
I do completely. Last question. Ask everybody this: is there something from this area, Papillion, Sarpy County, that you think needs more attention? Something that you dig that maybe doesn't get the attention it should, that you want to highlight?
Interesting. Nope. Nothing in Papillion needs your attention. Everything's fine.
Yes.
No improvements are necessary. I don't know. You know what? I don't know what's being done to the. I mean, this Main Street. Since I used to work in this area, it seems like it's had a few.
Oh, downtown's great.
Downtown.
New businesses, new restaurants.
You know what the downtown needs, though?
What?
The downtown needs a high-rise building covered in neon that's an entertainment complex that stands in complete opposition to the traditional architecture and, in fact, engulfs it and becomes a garish eyesore on the downtown. Really turn it into like a destination hotspot for clubbing, carousing, and
like a mini Vegas.
Yes.
Or Reno.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't. I don't know if the mayor will go for that or the city council, but I'll propose it.
Bring me. I have plenty of experience covering the Sarpy County Board of Sarpy County board meetings.
Right.
It's what I used to cover at the Papillion Times. So just get me into a meeting. I'll do the pitch.
Okay.
And I'll be like, are we about family here or are we about the hot dollar? There's one right answer, and it's not the first thing I said.
Dollars.
Let's bring the money no matter how we do it.
That's a unique answer. I don't think we've gotten that from any of these that we've done before. So cool.
I will change Papillion, Nebraska into the adult entertainment hotspot of the Missouri Valley.
Guarantee that's not going to happen. Matt, we appreciate it. It was awesome talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me,
Appreciate it. Join us next time when, again, we speak with someone who helps make Papillion feel like home or an entertainment hotspot.